What if I told you that your music, the music you're doing is great? What if I told you it was mediocre? What if I told you it was trash? Would that make a difference to you? Or would you just plow ahead, continue doing what you're doing, take the information, store it away, let it sink in? Would you ponder it? Would you take it to heart? What if I told you that your music, the music you're doing is phenomenal? It's great. What would you do? What kind of an effect would that have on you? Or if you heard it from someone else, if you heard it from a record label person or another artist that you were pitching to, are you ready to make that next move? Do you even know what that move is? Or if they said it was mediocre, do you stop what you're doing? Quit? Continue? I've talked about it in a previous video. Should you quit making music? Should you quit making art? Should you quit being an artist? I think those things are subjective for everyone's different situation. Like, if you're making music and it scratches an itch, or if you're playing guitar, you're learning the guitar, or maybe you're not even learning anymore. Maybe you just pick up the guitar and play. If that scratches an itch for you, then I would think that you should continue doing it. There's a friend of mine asked me the other day, I mentioned Memento Mori, and he was like, what's Memento Mori? I said, well, it comes from the Latin, it's Latin, and it's interpreted as, remember that you will die. Remember that you're going to die at some point. The other one is Memento Vivere, which is remember to live. So I like to have that balance of, if I'm going to think about Memento Mori, I like to think also about Memento Vivere, Vivere, Memento. It's like that movie. That was the movie, the crazy movie where everything was, the guy couldn't remember anything and he had short-term memory and he had to keep writing things down. And then there's Amor Fati, which is embrace your fate, love your fate. What does this all have to do with anything? And as you know, my channel sort of goes wherever it wants to go. Somebody said this morning on a chat that I was on a live stream that, hey, Tony, I'm waiting for your video this week. And I was like, uh-oh. Yeah, I should do a video. Everyone is always talking about the idea that music today is, why is there not as much good music today as there used to be? I don't know that that's true. I know the obligatory old guy yelling at the clouds, get off my lawn thing is to say that, they're not making stuff like they used to and blah, blah, blah. But I do think that we're still at that less than 1% of art breaks through. Maybe less than 1% of the artists find an audience or find their way in the world and make a mark. Do you have to make a mark? Not necessarily. I mean, look at how many podcasts there are. Someday somebody's gonna say, like, they just don't make podcasts like Joe Rogan anymore, when Joe Rogan's done making podcasts or whatever. A lot of people say Joe Rogan doesn't make podcasts as good as he used to, or Emma Chamberlain, or some, she's a YouTube girl that I came across a little while ago through a friend of mine. So the other thing I want to talk about is a little bit of how you might be able to go about making your way, and that is to be less isolated. I mean, if you want to try and always think about like how things have changed and maybe where they're heading, it seems as though we're getting more and more isolated as things move along with technology. And this is a perfect example. You're listening to me on a YouTube channel or watching and listening on a YouTube channel, and it's an individual event for you. It's not like you're sitting around with 4 other people interacting and sort of having like a response to what you're seeing and hearing together. So you're taking this in solo, and then it bounces around in your head solo, in isolation. And there's a difference in being in the room with people and responding to a show or a speech. They call it large group awareness training. Is one of those things where you see these seminars where they tell you like, come to this seminar, we're gonna change your life and get you all riled up on how to like improve your life. Well, there's an energy involved in having more people around you and your interaction with people, and your response is going to be different when there's other people in the room as opposed to completely being alone with your screen and your headphones. It's sort of this thing that I call that we're being divided and conquered because there's no interaction. I went and did a podcast, a video podcast on Sunday with 2 other guys, and this was not music related. This was a different topic, and it was interesting to be around a couple of other people on camera and on microphones and see that it took a little bit of an adjustment for everyone to allow the other person to finish talking before they talked. Because it doesn't really work too well if 3 guys are talking in the room all at once and you're watching on a screen and you're trying to make out what's going on. So, if you notice, like when you watch TV or movies, one person at a time talks. It's not an accident. Now, if you're never around people in a social setting or in a work setting, your feel for how to work with people and interact with people is going to be a little out of whack. I even see it on Zoom calls that I'm on. When there's a Zoom call with 10 people, some people just don't get it that they need to wait for someone else to finish talking before they start talking. It is a pretty good little training thing, but I digress. I want to talk a little bit about sound because this comes up quite a bit. And I think, I could do one of these videos every day if I really had the inspiration to do them. I could talk about this stuff for hours, but let's talk about sound for a minute. I was discussing this with someone else in that how much of an illusion sound is and recorded instruments. Like, for instance, even this video you're watching, like, my perception of what my voice is entirely different than what the microphone that's picking it up is. And then by the time it gets through the software, through the little recording device that's recording my voice, and then gets to the software, then gets to the internet, then gets to your speakers, there's the illusion right there. It's like, what's real anymore? It's not. You're not in the room with me. What you're seeing is not exactly me. this is through a little camera with a light. Then it's going to go through some software. Then it's going to go to YouTube. Then YouTube's going to pop it out to their channel. By the time it gets to you on whatever device you're watching it on, like apparently a lot of people watch and listen on their phone, perception becomes reality once again in some twisted form. So where does this get to with like recorded music, which I'm gathering most of you are into? That kick drum that you're hearing, for instance, is not what a drum typically it's not what a drum sounds like in a room with a drummer hitting it. So you have that perspective. Like we put a microphone inside of a drum up close to where the beater is hitting the head as the person is kicking the pedal. There's no one in the world that sticks their head into the drum and listens to the drum. But now we're capturing a recorded version of this drum and then capturing that to digital waveforms or tape and then processing that through transistors and transformers and compressors and equalizers and things like that, and then incorporating that into a mix, eventually getting it to the listener. If you looked at every little thing, and as you go along in your journey of recording things, you'll know that acoustic guitar does not sound like what comes out on the record. There's the recorded version of an acoustic guitar. It depends on the room it's in, depends on what kind of microphone it's that you're hitting it with. It depends on the touch of the player. Same thing with the vocalists. A vocalist singing in the room with you is going to sound entirely different than something that's been captured, a voice that's been captured by a microphone and a mic pre and a compressor and an equalizer and a tape medium or digital medium. What I'm trying to get at is it's all an illusion. So if someone is making the argument that their drums or their guitars sound better than yours or yours don't sound good, that's perception, subjective. What you like is what you like. What you dial in is what you want. You have to believe in it at some point, hopefully, or you have to connect with an audience and they believe it, and maybe that's all that's important to you. I think there needs to be some sort of conviction and belief on the part of the person making the production in order for it to translate. The sound is an illusion. Same for the video. We talked about that. Talked about isolation. At some point in a new video, I'm going to talk about opportunity. What does that mean? That means, I see in a lot of interaction, I hear the question like, would you listen to my music and tell me if I'm on the right course or whatever? There's no way that I could tell you you're heading in the right direction, because that direction, that destination is to be determined. You just have to be making the product, developing as you go along, and these opportunities will appear or not appear. You might tune into one opportunity. You might say like, hey, that's for me. Like, I need to go there. I need to be there, or I need to work with that person. Or another person might see you and or hear what you're doing and say, that's where I need to be. That's who I need to be working with. There is no way to predict it. And I can give you dozens of examples in my career in that I didn't know that particular day when I went to the studio that the third or fourth person that entered the room that I didn't even know was going to be there was someone that was going to be in my career for the next 4 or 5 years. Those things happen all the time. Everything, in a lot of ways, the things that you think are going to happen, like, hey, I'm going to work with so-and-so today, and this is it. This is going to be magic. We're gonna hit it off. They're gonna love what I do. I'm gonna love what they do, and for the next 11 years, we're gonna be an insane team, a machine. There's no way that I could tell you that that's reality, because that's not reality. It's in more cases than not, it's the opportunity that you least expected, the phone call that you didn't think was going to be the phone call that changed the course of your career for the next however long. I'm just telling you from experience that if especially in production, there is no exact roadmap to take. You just have to be banging it out, getting better. Everyone says you have to be passionate about what you're doing. Of course, I think that kind of isn't that obvious? Another thing I wanted to talk about today was the amount of information, and this goes back to the isolation thing, the amount of information that's out there, let's just say, just on YouTube alone. I came across a video of a guy, and, occasionally I'll bite. I'll say, all right, I have to see what this guy is talking about. So it was, and I'm going to try and change the title so I don't give away who I'm referring to. Let's just say it was something along the lines of 11 years of my music mixing experience in 10 minutes, and the things I wish I knew but didn't know then, or something along those lines. You get the picture. You've seen a bunch of these videos, I'm sure, out there. So the guy says he's got 11 years experience, and, this is these are the things that he's learned. These are the things he wishes he knew. And this is why he's awesome now. My question is, if you're mixing for 11 years, when did you get good enough to make this video? In the first 6 months, or the last 6 months, or somewhere in between? So why is it important for me to know that you had 11 years mixing experience? And and how do you fact check any of that? So, anything could be sort of researched or whatever. Does it matter that this guy could be making up a whole bunch of stuff and sort of combining a bunch of things that he's watched on the internet or read on the internet or listened to? It doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say to you is, if you get something out of it, it's worth it. Somebody told me this a long time ago, that they would read loads of these self-help books. And, they're $11.95 and 7 Habits of Highly Sufficient, Successful, Efficient, Successful People. I've read that one, I think. 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, I think is the name of it. And anyway, the guy said, for $11.95, if I get one idea out of something like that, it was worth it. If there was one thing that sort of bounced around and I could use in my life somewhere down the line, it was worth it. It's kind of the same thing with these YouTube videos. If you can get a little something out of it, it's worth it. I would be careful to get indoctrinated and hooked on a bit of a program of sorts where these guys are like, you know, I have a 75 stage course in how to program an Akai MPC 60, and it's $74 a pop, and you know, for the rest of your 20s or 30s, you'll be learning how to program an Akai MPC. Is that nuts? For some people. I mean, if it scratches an itch for you, to use that phrase again, I think it's a good idea then. But if you kind of like, you have an opportunity with the internet and with all this YouTube thing and whatever else is out there that you're checking out, you have an opportunity to you know, pick and choose, or you know, I'm sure if you made it this far, you're wondering like, what can I pick and choose from this video? My videos are long-ish. They are not entirely scripted at all. Obviously, I'm not reading a teleprompter, and that's the way they're going to be. I think that's, you know, this is like hanging out with me in the studio. When I take a bit of a breather, I'll talk to you about some crazy stuff like Memento Mori and Memento Vivere. You know, it's a little of that. I think Memento Vivere is a little. Memento Mori is a little bit had a little influence on that whole Fight Club thing. Like, you need to know that someday you're going to die, and that, of course, that's true. You don't have to live like tomorrow you're going to die, but you know, enjoy your production time, your making beats time, making music. Enjoy listening to music. This is sort of a kumbaya video for me, in some ways, aside from all the remember you're going to die stuff. I didn't get to any questions. We talked about the mixing thing quite a bit. Talked about how the production pyramid is kind of upside down. People are way more concerned with, than I think they should be, with the mix as opposed to what the foundation is. You know, what the beat is, what the song is way more important than what the beat is, even if you're a beat maker. I think that's the hot tip for beat makers today, is that, like, I know you can make beats. I know there's a gazillion guys out there can make beats. Making songs, and a rap tune is a song. Making songs and complete productions is way more valuable than making a beat. That's it. See you in a couple.